A huge part when talking about overstimulation are the exaggerated challenges people face because of the increased connectivity of this world. Besides the influences regarding direct stimulation, like scrolling through the endless chain of dopamine injecting content, or playing games designed to perfectly exploit human behavioral perks, there's also the aspect of being connected. You theoretically have the possibility to come in contact with about 60% of the world's population if you dive the right way in this all-encompassing net. Yes, only 60%. It is just an estimation, but I believe we have no real perspective of how many lives actually just go on without coming in contact with social media at all still. We humans are social beings, yes, but we have roamed this earth for thousands of years without coming into contact with more than just a few hundred people at most. Nowadays, we face an unprecedented amount of social interactions, being it on or offline. This is also due to the increasing world population, but of course even more influenced by social media. From active communication through messengers, over interacting on social media posts regarding things happening outside the internet, to just watching content of any sort of influencer. We are exposed to so much more information and our behavior is being seen by so many people, resulting in an extreme amount of social feedback. Back in the day, we would only face a limited amount of different feedback by our environment, which also was exposed to mostly the same sort of feedback, which will result in culture developing more locally. There are already so many different online communities with particular cultural norms. We are faced with way more pressure to adapt to certain cultures. And now there's a culture war waging, but I'm going off topic. Now that the background is given, let's look how this can influence our lives. Yes, you could easily make an argument for the positive side of things, but there's a lot which makes life nowadays more difficult in this regard. Would this just be a way to connect with more people, gain more intercultural experience, and find fitting communities? You could probably only argue that there's danger in it being online and that real-life development should not be disregarded. But sadly, social media is far gone from this ideal. Social media has three main problems. The first is the problem of it being an intensely indirect way of communication. There are a lot of social information being lost by not communicating in person. Have you ever found yourself in a situation in which you thought that a misunderstanding could easily be resolved if we would just be able to look each other in the eye and deliver messages more fully rather than just by texting? I have found myself in that situation many times and it always shows me how much information actually can get lost. On a factual level, the message is the same, but the delivery can make all the difference in something being genuinely friendly and empathetic or it being passive-aggressive. Even something like a phone call increases the amount of information by so much. This is strongly connected with the next problem, which is the fact that it gives everyone the possibility to stay anonymous. All the bad properties of people which would be facing natural selection in real-life communities by other people giving them direct social feedback and reacting to antisocial behavior can easily be performed online to pleasure one's badly developed needs, and there's usually no negative learning experience. There's even more possibility to find someone who's thinking the same maladaptive way. The confirmation bias is becoming bigger and bigger of a problem. And that is connected to the last and most destructive property of social media. It is a market. It is all about selling products. I would assume that 90% of online content has nothing to do with being real, and even half of what's real is only real because it sells good. There are always underlying agendas. Even this video right here is influenced by the hope that this will reach a lot of people and thus influenced in a way that it has properties which are popular right now. People and companies are only shining light on the good and attractive aspects of their life, product or agenda, to gain the attention of a lot of people just to in turn sell their platform to more people with even more products. Now we finally get to the part why I wanted to create this video. Social media is in its nature a platform for social comparison. Every type of social interaction is also an act of comparison and feedback loop, but for all the reasons mentioned above, it is absolutely not capable of doing that in a natural or realistic and thus healthy way. We are comparing ourselves to so many different people with so many different agendas, all of them being influenced by a feedback loop of confirmation bias, which results in an exaggeration of single aspects which only make up tiny parts of a full human being. Creators create ideas and communities integrate them into their standards, which in turn gives the creator a positive reinforcement, making them focus on these aspects even more. And the worst is, this happens for so many different aspects in so many different communities. So you are currently comparing yourself, consciously or not, to 20 different people who have focused a huge part of their lives and thus resources on 20 single aspects each. And the conclusion of all that is that you feel bad because you aren't able to achieve nearly as much as 20 other people have achieved with focusing so much of their existence into that. Let's go back to what the problem of our parents was. They would compare themselves to a maximum of a few people particularly talented in their fields of interest. They would see them on TV, hear about them on the radio, or read about them in the newspaper or some topic-specific journals. Maybe they would hear about them as being legends of this certain field while being in this field also. All way more distant from home. Nowadays, it seems all to be so much closer. Your idols can directly interact with their community, giving the illusion of it being a lot closer to yourself. But in fact, these people would probably have had the right talents, genetics and promoting environment, plus the effort which was put in. In science, we like to look at percentages. These people just described are probably in the top 5% in their field. And nowadays, we see all these top 5% people focus and identify themselves to this single aspect by being pushed by this feedback loop I described, making them even more one-dimensional. Without that, they wouldn't even be where they are right now. But if you keep the focus on yourself, you will see that social comparison is completely wrecked. Let's look at doing sports, for example. If you compare yourself to the 3 fitness influencers who, besides being extremely good in their field, also were able to succeed on social media and thus probably belong to the top 1%, they seem extremely far away, and that's because they are. But if you look at all the people in the world, or even just the people interested in doing sport, there is some perspective to it. Stop looking around and especially right to the top. You might want to look down though, maybe it might be more motivating. To stick to the sports example, if you go to the gym once, you are already in the top 50%, because there are so many people who don't commit to their goals. If you do it regularly, you can easily surpass the top 25% mark. Having it as your hobby and setting goals will bring you into the top 15% easily. Wouldn't that be enough? Because you are physically able to watch this video here and understand it, I can assume that you are probably too old to start with the goal of becoming top 5% in a lot of things. So stop comparing yourself to those who perfected and focus everything they had on it. Focus on yourself and just do it. It's you versus yourself from yesterday.